Okay, we're going to look at factorising some quadratics where the coefficient of the x squared term is not 1. So we still start the same way and we write our a, our b and our c. So in this case our a is equal to 2, our b is equal to 7 and our c is equal to 3. So my first step again is to write ac and b. Now a times c is 6 and b is equal to 7. So I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to give 6 but add to give 7. So I know that those two numbers are 6 and 1, because 6 times 1 gives me 6 and 6 plus 1 gives me 7. Now, if my coefficient had been a 1, I could have gone straight to putting that into the brackets, but I can't because it is the more complicated version of this where we don't have the coefficient of 1. So what I need to do is, instead of writing my 7x, I'm now going to put these two numbers in instead. So I'm going to write my 2x squared. Instead of writing 7x, I'm going to write plus 6x plus 1x. Now I could have written it the reverse order. It will work both ways. And then I write my plus 3 on the end. Now I'm going to just look at the first two terms and factorise that. So I can see they have a common factor of x and a common factor of 2. So I'm going to bring a 2x out the front, and inside my bracket I'm going to put x plus 3. Now looking at my next two terms, they don't have any common factors, so I'm just going to write a plus 1 and then write what is there in the bracket, because 1 times x will give me x and 1 times 3 will give me 3. Now this is where I then notice, which is what I'm looking for, is that I then have a bracket that they have in common. So I can bring that out the front and write x plus 3, and I'll put the remainder in the second bracket, the 2x plus 1. So now I've factorised it. I know that that will be equal to 0, so I could go then and solve, if I wanted to, by saying x must be equal to negative 3 to make that equal 0, or x is equal to negative a half to make this equal 0, because negative a half times 2 is negative 1, plus 1 will give me 0. So I could follow that through, but I'm just focusing on the factorising in this video. Now the next example we have is where we have 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. So I'm going to go through that same process again and write down my a, my b and my c. So I've got an a is equal to 2, my b is negative 5 and my c is negative 12. So when I do my AC, I've got negative 12 times 2 is negative 24, and my b is equal to negative 5. So I'm looking for, I know I'm going to look for one negative and one positive, because I know that that will multiply to give my negative and it will add to give a negative number. So I'm looking for factors of 24 that are 5 apart. So when I'm thinking about my factors of 24, I know I've got 24 and 1, I know I've got 12 and 2, now they're not 5 apart. I know I've got 4 and 6, they're not 5 apart, but I also know I've got 8 and 3 will give me 24, and I know that 8 and 3 are 5 apart. So if I make that negative 8 and positive 3, then that will multiply to give negative 24, but add to give negative 5. So I'm going to do the same process I did back here and replace the negative 5x with take 8x plus 3x. Now I could do it the reverse order, so I'm actually going to show you that as well, because that so that you can see that it works both ways. So we've got 2x squared plus 3x, take 8x, take 12. And as I said, you could have put them in the other order and it will still work out the same. So looking at the first two terms again, they have a common factor of x. So in my bracket will be 2x plus 3. Now over here, they have a common factor of minus 4. So I'll put negative 4 outside the bracket, and inside the bracket it will be 2x plus 3. And you'll notice that's that same bracket as I got the first time. So I'm able to take that bracket out the front, and in my second bracket will be the leftover, which is x take 4. Now the last example I'm going to go through in this video is my 6x squared minus 13x plus 5. So I'm going to go through that same process again. A is equal to 6, b is equal to negative 13, and c is equal to 5. So my AC is equal to 30, and my b is equal to minus 13. Now because I've got a negative as my b, I know I'm looking for two negative numbers, because I need the negative numbers to get the b value, but because I've got a positive there, I know I need two negatives so that when it multiplies, I'll get a positive answer. So when I think of the factors of 30, I know that I have 30 and 1. They're not going to add to give negative 13. I know I've got 5 and 6, so negative 5 and negative 6, that's not going to add to negative 13. I know I've got 10 and 3, so if I make it negative 10 and negative 3, I know that when I do negative 10 times negative 3, I'll get 30, and when I do negative 10 plus negative 3, I'm going to get the negative 13 there. So I'm going to do like I did in the first two examples. I'm going to write my 6x squared. Instead of minus 13x, I'm going to have minus 10x take 3x, and then I'm going to have my plus 5 on the end. So now I'm going to look at the first two and look for common factors. So between the 6x and the x squared and the minus 10x, I can take a 2x outside. That's going to leave me with 3x take 5. Now here I've got minus 3x plus 5. If I take a minus 1 out of the bracket, out of those two, I'll be left with a positive 3x because I want a 3x to match this one. Also, that means if I take a negative out from here, negative 1 times negative 5 will give me positive 5, which then gives me the matching bracket that I was looking for. Then I can take that out the front, and in the other bracket I'll put what's left over, the 2x minus 1. You can always do a quick check at the end that will multiply out. 3x times 2x gives me 6x squared, negative 5 times negative 1 gives me positive 5, and then I've got negative 10x and negative 3x for the middle there. So you can go and do a track back and check that your answer works.